In recent years, it seems the quality of the leading liberal Black public intellectuals appears to be declining. In one generation, we've gone from Cornel West, who, whether or not you agree with his views, is undeniably brilliant, to Michael Eric Dyson, to Ta-Nehisi Coates, to Ibram X. Kendi. I think that's a smooth gradient down. That's me adding that. Whom Glenn correctly characterizes as an empty suit. What do you think explains this decline in quality?
Mm.
Do you agree with the premise? Do you have an account?
Over the past 10 years, it has become especially fashionable among educated whites to demonstrate awareness of the operations of what's called societal racism. You're supposed to know what that is. If you don't, you're either dumb or evil or some combination. That's been true for a long time, but it really steps up with the entrenchment of social media and with Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown and various events. White America really, educated white America really gets off on feeling Black pain. And so I think what you're seeing is that a person whose only message essentially is racism exists is embraced because you show that you like that person's work, and that's a shorthand way for showing that you are a good person.
Welcome everyone, it's Dr. Kenny here today. Welcome back to my Inconvenient Truth series. Today we're going to be talking about the decline of the intellectual Black man, right? For whatever reason, I came across that video you saw in the intro, and we're going to dive more into it later in this video. But it made me ask a question. I said, hey, like, has liberal Black intellectual people, have we been going towards a sharp decline? Because I mean, Cornel West, I believe that's the guy's name. I've seen some of his segments. He makes some sense, right? I just disagree with his ideals or where he wants to go, or I guess his approach of achieving those ideals, but he makes sense. But when I hear Ibram X. Kendi, Tariq Nasheed, who else? There's other people. Umar Johnson, like these people are like projected as the Black intellectuals. Well, I call them Black pseudo intellectuals. And I look back in history and I go, oh, like, what happened to the W.E. Du Boises? Like, there's no more of those guys anymore. Like W.E. Du Bois, he makes sense. He was the one who put out, hey, like, The Talented Tenth. That's a book. I kind of read a summary of it, but that's a book that I can agree with. I say, yeah, there's some cases he focused too much on race. He focused too much on gender, right? Too much on identity. But his core argument is that if a group of people cannot support and keep its most talented people in its community, the community is doomed to mediocrity and failure. Is that not what's going on in the Black community today? Any person with any sense, any Black person that has any success, or they speak proper English, or doesn't go towards the Black culture rejects them. But these are the same people that can change your community for the better. And I observed this with Candace Owens, right? And I kind of want to go into this segment with Black Conservative Perspective. He did a clip where he was talking about Brandon Johnson, and it kind of instantiates what John McWhorter and Glenn Lori, sorry, Glenn, said in the beginning is that, yo, you go from W. Du Boises of the world, Cornel West. Now you got Ibram X. Kendi, who uses racism to define racism. Like, you use self-circular law. Like, it is so ridiculous that I fear for the modern era of intellectualism in the coming future, right? And I'm not saying this is only for liberals, maybe. I just see, I'm noticing it a lot more with liberals, right? Is that it seems like these intellectuals only got spotlight, only got attention because of white guilt. That white people feel guilty about themselves, so they'll support, I guess, anything, as long as they could use it as a marker of, look, I'm one of the good ones, it seems like. But I digress. Let's look into this little short monologue of how Al Sharpton, this guy, professional race hustler, but it kind of points to the intellectualism that is sharply declining with people on that side of the aisle. Let's take a look.
No, it puts a tremendous burden on you and other Democratic mayors. I might add, many black mayors has been the focal of this. In fact, on Thursday, New York City Mayor Eric Adams filed a $700 million lawsuit against 17 charter bus companies who transported migrants from Texas. What are your thoughts about the case, and is this an action you would consider taking as well?
Well, look, you're absolutely right about the intentions of Governor Abbott. He is attacking democratically ran cities, and particularly cities that are being led by black leaders or leaders of color.
Wow. Does this count towards Denver as well, too? Right? Does that include Denver, who this guy went on television with? Okay. Him, Eric Adams, the mayor of Denver, okay, which is a sanctuary city. He's white. Okay. He's a white guy. Okay. And they always boohoo, whining, and crying about getting illegals. Now, again, if Greg Abbott is such a racist and he's only targeting black mayors, why is he sending them to Denver? Okay. It just so happens that a lot of these major sanctuary cities are being led by black folks, right? Also just so happens that these cities are shitholes. Okay. So again, I'm not saying that correlation equals causation here. I'm just saying there's a lot of correlation here in regards to the leaders, the skin color of these leaders versus the current state of the cities. Now, again,
so the most I get from this is that these black intellectuals, those liberal black intellectuals, they always seem to want to jump to something that on the surface seems to prove their narrative. Oh, look at Governor Greg Abbott. He's sending in migrants to target black mayors. And then all black conservative perspective pointed out was, all of you guys are sanctuary cities. He sent some to Colorado who has a white mayor. Why he targeted him? If it was about race, he would only target you guys. But he's targeting all you guys because all of you guys are sanctuary cities, and you claim that you're open for migrants. So Texas said, okay, you can help us out with the border. Then here you go. And then they take it as, oh my God, it's racism. And it seems like the liberal black intellectual uses racism as a way of, I guess, casting blame on people, using it as a way to avoid accountability. In my view, they use it as a distraction from the actual problems plaguing their communities, which is bad management, bad leadership. You pick the wrong solutions. You pick the wrong problems to solve that doesn't do much impact to the lives of the people you have sworn to govern. Right? But these liberal black intellectuals, they don't really focus on that. They want to focus on justifying their feelings of feeling like a victim, when in reality, they have all the opportunity and options, essentially, if they're willing to work for it, or if they have the talent and ability to actually capitalize on it, to do and be anything they want in this country. But to highlight that, or to avoid that conversation with themselves and looking at themselves in the mirror, because I think a lot of the ills in the black community is all eternal, not external. And it seems like the liberal black intellectual wants to use racism as the alibi to excuse their internal decision making, their internal factors as not the cause, it's the external. But I want to kind of dive in more into this video because I found it very interesting, and it highlights an inconvenient truth about the liberal black intellectual, is that they're merely conflating correlation with causation. And they're using that as a way of, it's a very simple way of saying, oh, racism exists. Look at the racial disparities. It's the same argument. Just because there's a disparity between racial groups does not necessarily prove racism. But they want you to just go along with that. Right? And they can't even articulate why that is, because any little bit of scrutiny, oh, there's a wealth gap between the racial groups. Okay, who invests more money? White people or black people? Who's less likely to be in debt? White people or black people? Right? And when you go down the line, who has a higher average income? White people or black people? Right? When you go ask about, hey, let's see the results of your actions and decision makings, it starts making more sense why there's a racial disparity. Because racial groups make different decisions, and if you make different decisions, you get different outcomes. Simple. But it kind of marks the decline of the black intellectual, the liberal black intellectual anyway. But I digress. Let's get into the video.
As I said on this show in various ways, I think that was the essence of Ta-Nehisi Coates' appeal on the level that it was. It's not that he didn't deserve attention for some good writing, but that godly way he was treated for a while, he was treated like Jesus, was because of that. He has withdrawn completely from the field. It's almost perplexing. So then you need another figure that you treat like that. Some of it is Nicole Hannah-Jones, but she's not a super celebrity in the way that Kendi is. But Kendi is just the new Coates. It's the transferring allegiance to a new person.
It kind of shows that, like, when the liberal black intellectual likes to, I think they project a lot. When they like to call black conservatives tokens, I say, hey, it's a projection. Because in reality, Ibram X. Kendi is a token, right? If I go by their definition, right? They don't represent any ideas. They don't have any thoughts. You ask this man what racism is, he uses racism to define it. And they expect you to just know what it means. But he doesn't have the skill or the ability to articulate what exactly he's complaining about, what he has gripes about. All he seems to complain about is like, oh, how we don't have equal outcomes. And I'm looking, and if you're a rational person, you realize that no human in history has equal outcomes, even amongst each other's, even amongst people in the same group. But he's asking for a whole racial group to have the same outcome as another racial group, especially when that racial group is not doing the same actions and decisions and have the same expectations and culture as another group. So why you expect to have the same result? If Asian parents invest more in education, their kids spend more time doing homework, they're more academically involved compared to other groups of people, how do you expect your kids to perform in academics the same way their kids do? This is why I said it's behavior that drives outcomes, not your race. Many people who say that race drives outcomes, to me, you're using your race as an alibi to excuse your own inadequacies, your own inability to do the proper things that actually work. And that's the results of this. But I'm done. Let's get back into the video.
Of that kind. I'm gonna say it. Kendi makes me miss Coates in a way. I mean, I used to sometimes say I wish Coates brought more to the plate, but God, Coates is Heidegger compared to Kendi. But they are basically the same thing. So I'm just kind of going to leave that there. There's been a coarsening of what people seek in black intellectuals because of social media culture. And it means that somebody who has that one message that racism still exists, can get a whole lot more traction than they would have 20 or 30 years ago when you had to have more to say than that. And so, for example, Michael Eric Dyson, that's what he's all about too, but he can approach it from so very many different angles.
Yeah.
For example, Dyson put out an anthology called The Dyson Reader rather early on. And there was a whole lot in there. And you couldn't say that the man doesn't have a certain interest in things. I don't imagine a Kendi reader that would be of the substance of that book. With Cornel West, you'd have to do transcriptions of his speeches because he doesn't like writing. But you would see that he can do Cervantes. I did a thing with him about Sondheim, Stephen Sondheim. He knows his Sondheim.
Oh, he told me during the interview, say hello to my friend John McWhorter and tell him we both love musical theater. I think he might have said Sondheim.
He knew his Sondheim backwards and forwards. And so, yes, there is a difference these days. I'm not going to say more because it gets to the point where you know all these people, but yes.
Yeah, you don't want to come off as if you're jealous of them or carping. I interpret your answer as the decline in the quality of black public intellectuals is because white people have lost their minds.
Yes. Or,
no.
And it's also the bigotry of low expectations, in my view, is that they say, hey, liberals, and this has been my critique of liberalism for a long time, is that they believe everyone has a right to be a liberal and nothing else. And if there's a person of a certain skin complexion, right, that helps them build their narrative of, oh, look how accepting we are, look how virtuous we are, they'll immediately support them regardless if they're actually good or not, or if they actually have an argument or not. They're just like, hey, we just need a reason. We just need a justification. Give us one. Okay, Ibram X. Kendi gives them one. Okay, we need to stop being racist. The only cure to racism is anti-racism. Okay, what is racist? Oh, a guy that do racist policies and pass racist things. That's the definition Kendi gives. Instead of saying having a disdain, prejudice, or hate for a certain group of people merely because of the color of their skin. That's a racism. Or having some preconceived notions of someone solely based on their race. That's another definition of racism I would give, right? And I see no law that violates my definition of racism, right? And this is where the liberals have allowed the game to become. Definitions become so loosely defined, so subjective that almost they can disagree with you on anything, even if in reality what you said is true. Oh, I don't think racism is that. Racism is if there's any discrepancy along racial lines. No, that's not racism. All you're pointing out is disparities. All you just pointing out is two racial groups having two different outcomes when these two racial groups don't have a shared culture. Period. Right? Rational thinking is considered white culture. This is the kind of level of intellectualism that we have fallen in the era of Ibram X. Kendi. That everything's so racialized that if you make a coherent and rational argument for why you don't agree with anti-racism, they can brush it away using racism. How convenient. Oh, that's white culture stuff. That don't apply to me because I'm black. Using racism to justify racism. See how circular anti-racism is? It's so ridiculous. Because if you use anything created by white people, oh no, that don't take us into consideration. It naturally disqualifies us as black people. I'll let this video ride out and then I'll give my final thoughts.
Lost their minds, but white people seek to congratulate themselves on being aware of racism to a narcotic.
I'm remembering a David Brooks column in the New York Times around the time that Between the World and Me was hot, that was entitled Reading Ta-Nehisi Coates While White. You've heard of Driving While Black? Well, David Brooks is reading Coates while white. And I shook my head at that. I say, man, you white people have gone crazy. I'll say this about Coates, he can write. I mean, I've been teaching. I was just out at the University of Austin, as I might have mentioned when we had the biweekly conversation earlier, teaching a summer course, week-long meeting, 90 minutes in the morning, 90 minutes in the afternoon, a seminar with 20. I assigned Coates' essay on reparations from The Atlantic, that long piece that he did, that very iconic piece. Yeah. It's lyrical. You know, I mean, we took the argument apart and dissected it and parsed it and rebutted it and so forth. But the writing is just kind of it's not half bad, and the writing in Between the World and Me is not half bad either. Mm-hmm. I think
he was a writer, and he was somebody who thought passionately. Yeah, definitely. It was frustrating sometimes to be to be working while he was the dominant voice, but a little bit of retrospection makes me miss him a little bit. Yeah, he wasn't nice to me, or to you, but
he's still with us. He's just withdrawn from the field. I gather he's writing for Marvel Comics or something like that. That's what I've heard.
Apparently, you have to give it to him in a way to really figure I have said what I have to say, and I know it, and now I'm really not going to say anything. You know, barely anything after George Floyd, even. And he's a little bit now and then, but he's done. He wants to do other things.
Yeah, and I think that's what I think it's the Coates. That's his name. I think that was his big advantage, that he was a writer. He was able to articulate, cast a vision of a perspective that he had, and he was sharing his subjective perception, and he was able to illustrate it, and that what made a lot of people, I think, gravitate towards his stuff. Right now, when you get to the facts of the argument, it ain't really hold water. It seemed like more of a racial paranoia that I believe the black community passes on to their future generations, even though the reality shows that, hey, this is the best place to be black. This is you have nothing really stopping you. Your skin color isn't the biggest thing holding you back. It's mostly your habits, the culture that you're raised in, that is really the biggest determiner of holding black progress back. But a lot of liberal blacks don't want to, I guess, take that into consideration, or they don't even want to even consider that race is not an obstacle in their life. And I understand what's this holding pattern that black culture seems to have this need for racism to exist. This is why they'll jump at anything that even validates that worldview of theirs. And it seems like the black community, and this is the Inconvenient Truths, about the liberal black intellectual. They're only there as a means of confirmation bias for white guilt, black victimhood, and that's the inconvenient truth. I think this is the only reason that liberal black intellectuals exist today, and this is why you have such a sharp decline in their ability to debate, to articulate. This is why Kendi will never debate Elder, right? I think that's why, right? And then when they slander black conservatives as tokens, I look at them and like, yo, you guys are the biggest tokens. Your whole industry is supported by a group of people feeling guilty about being a certain skin color. And the minute that group stops being guilty about their skin color, y'all lose all money, y'all lose all credibility, and you even, I dare say, lose your platform. That's just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comment section. Thanks for watching Inconvenient Truths. I hope you like this video. I hope you find it insightful. I would like to hear your thoughts about the possible decline of liberal black intellectuals. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with people on the video, or you don't? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks for watching to the end of the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next Inconvenient Truths. Peace.